happening, everybody? Brian Edwards, MajorWager.com. The silly season is upon us, and we're going to talk the Auburn head coaching search. And we'll touch on the odds that are out for Illinois and Arizona, and just a couple quick remarks about Vanderbilt. For those that thought that the financial crunch being felt by many athletic departments was going to help save, retain some jobs rather than pink slips, you were mistaken. You were mistaken. No hesitancy whatsoever in some situations, and Auburn pulled the plug on Gus Malzahn's up and down 8-year tenure at Auburn on Sunday early. Well, I can't confirm. I've heard Gus found out well earlier than early Sunday afternoon when Auburn actually released did a press release or a statement on Twitter or all their social media outlets. Anyhow, Gus is out. Just real quick on him. Great first season. I've always given him much of the credit on the Cam Newton season, 2010, obviously, when they won it all, before he left to go to Arkansas State for a brief year, and then they punted Gus and hired him. His first season, he should have won the national title. It's not his fault. Nick Marshall missed that, or he made it a completion, but it was either the first or the second play of the game. I mean, they had a guy like 15 yards behind the defense, and Nick Marshall underthrew him. He had to backtrack and catch it, or come back and catch it and like hit his knee. It would have been an easy touchdown. And I don't think they got anything on that drive. Maybe they got 3. I don't know. They missed a chip shot field goal that game. I don't think FSU got a 3 and out that whole game. How FSU won that game is beyond me. But anyhow, since that initial season, 2013, and that was the last BCS championship game, and they lost the semis. He's lost at least 4 games every year. Now, he did win the West in 17, and they were going to fire him in 17, but undefeated, and I forget if they were, Georgia was undefeated. I think they were number 2. They came in, they scored on a quick touchdown drive, and then Auburn just blasted them the rest of the game. And then Alabama came to town. It was 2 wins over undefeated teams in 3 weeks, and they beat Alabama by double digits, 26-14. That saved his job. Got him a 7-year, $49 million deal. Got him a huge buyout. Well, when they went 8-5 the next year, they wanted him gone, but the buyout was insanity. And what they ended up doing was punting the president that gave him that buyout. And they might have been ready to fire him last year, but he beat Alabama again. You can't fire an Auburn coach who's 2-1 in the last 3 Iron Bowls. Although they did fire Tubbs when he was 6-1 in the last 7, but that was a different Alabama and a different time. It was a pre-Saban time when Tuberville got axed. So anyhow, Gus finished his career 68-35 overall. Never had a losing season. And before anybody feels sorry for Gus, understand that he has the buyout you have to pay, which is okay at this point with all those years that have come off. I guess he signed it in December 17 or January 18. The buyout is now down to $21 million, but half of it has to be paid in the next 30 days. So don't feel sorry for anybody, folks, who's getting a check for more than $10 million in the next 30 days, and that's Gus. He had a classy released a statement today, or at least I saw it on Twitter. That was, it was all class. Gus is a good coach, and he'll have plenty of options. And he might have the option, maybe. I think he would be in the top 5 of candidates to be the next coach at Tennessee, because Jeremy Pruitt's going to get fired Saturday night or Sunday morning. You can book that. You can book that. Okay, to the Auburn search. All right, so I think obviously the first name in my mind, and BetOnline.ag opened the odds this morning, and they had Hugh Freeze as the favorite. He is no longer the favorite. The new favorite is Mario Cristobal at Oregon, who is, one of the master recruiters of the South Florida area, played at Miami, was an assistant at Miami for a long time. Then he started the FIU program from scratch, had some really good years, got T.Y. Hilton to come to FIU. And then he had like one bad season and they canned him. Probably the best thing that ever happened to him. He got out of South Florida. I want to say he'd been there his whole life. I could be mistaken on that. Became Saban's recruiting coordinator at Alabama. Did a hell of a job there for a number of years. And then I guess he just went. Did he just go to Oregon as a DC? I can't remember exactly. But anyway, he became the head coach at Oregon, which is an awesome job. But he's from South Florida. And I imagine I've never I haven't even been to the Northwest. I mean, Seattle and Portland are right there with like Boston, and Pittsburgh is like the last great American cities that I've never been to. So yeah, I don't think I've been north of, I don't know, Ogden, Utah, maybe out west. I mean, Vegas is obviously south of that, and is Reno south of that? And Lake Tahoe, I don't know. I think Lake Tahoe. Oh no, I've been to San Fran. What am I talking about? That's Northern California, but I've never been north of that, unless Sacramento is north of that. I don't think it is. Anyway, who cares about all that? Do I think Cristobal would take the Auburn job? Probably. Yeah. Yeah, I do. And he is now the plus 150 chalk at betonline.ag. The interim head coach, because Auburn will go to a bowl game, is Kevin Steele, who, and man, I should have gone and looked up his bio. I think Kevin Steele's only been a head coach at Baylor, and it didn't go well. But before Art Briles, I think Baylor had like 3 decades or so of nothing going well. So I don't know. That's an indictment upon him. Steele's been, he was the DC for Dabo until Gino in West Virginia hung 70 on him. Was it more than 70? It was at least 70 in the Orange Bowl, and he got canned. I think he went to LSU after that. He's been all over the SEC. Steele has, but I remember when he got hired as Auburn's DC, and I was like, I don't know, but he has done a hell of a job as DC at Auburn the last 3 to 5 years, maybe. So he's the interim head coach. And Brandon Marcello tweeted earlier today. Brandon Marcello's longtime Auburn beat writer. I want to say for 15 years or so, or at least as long as I've been on Twitter, since is what, '09, so at least 11 years, maybe longer. But anyhow, he tweeted today, and I had actually been told this by somebody else like an hour or two before that Kevin Steele's the man, which I horse laughed. But Marcelo said there's one big booster that is pushing hard for Steele. But then he added, but I don't think all the top boosters are on the same page. Well, you're right there, Brandon. Ain't nobody on that page. I mean, he was fallback, 5th, 6th option, unless that big booster just is the gazillionaire of them all, and you can't piss him off. And the only thing Steele would also have going for him is if all these players are pissed, and it would, keep continuity of the player, and it might help this recruiting class, whatever the commits they have. Not that well, he's got multiple things going for him. Well, first off, that when I'm talking about with team chemistry and whatnot, and he has the support of the players and whatnot. And I would think, and this is one beef I had with Jeremy Foley when he when he made the ridiculous, dumbass, unacceptable. Well, he made 3 of those, but unacceptable hire of Ron Zook. Not only did he hire him, He gave him this huge contract, which was so just like, bro, you could offer him $500,000 a year and Zucker would have come to Florida. Are you kidding me? So I get where I'm going with that is Steele is, if money's an issue, and from what I know, Bobby Louder is broke these days. And if you don't follow that, Bobby Louder used to be their big booster. That basically got what he wanted because he was a gazillionaire, but I think he lost all his fortune with the financial collapse. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not acting like I know everything about Bobby Louder, but if money is an issue, and it very well could be, I mean, look, like I just said, the Gus portion of the buyout alone is 21 million. With all the assistance, I don't know what it is. I did have somebody that kind of knows some stuff about that. Text me, it was either yesterday or earlier today, said that the whole buyout with all the assistance is like 30 mil. I don't know if that's completely accurate, but anyway, um, and you could get Steele on the cheap, cheaper than anybody else for sure. Because Steele would take it in a heartbeat. Kevin Steele's never getting another head coaching job unless he wants to coach Southern Miss or FIU or somewhere like that. I mean, Conference USA or the MAC. He's never getting another head coaching job. So you don't have to pay him much. And if I'm not mistaken, they're still paying Chiswick a little bit as well. So, oh yeah, and then after the $10 million and change check the next 30 days, oh yeah, there's another 10 million. I don't know what the time frame that they got to pay more to Gus as well. So I'm sure there'll be a payment plan for that. And that's going to extend for I don't know how long, but years maybe. I don't know if they're still paying Chiswick, clearly years. So anyhow, um, but anyway, Steele is now the plus 300. Okay, so we've got Cristobal at plus 150. And look, I'm not implying that Bet Online. Look, I credit Bet Online that they throw these fun props out, and that's great of them. It doesn't mean they act, that they necessarily know what they're talking about. And so I'm not sitting here saying I think Mario Cristobal is a favorite. I don't think that at all. But betting wise, if you want to bet at BetOnline.ag right now, Cristobal is plus 150. Hugh Freeze is plus 275 and Steele is plus 300. Now let's go to Hugh Freeze. That is who I believe is the number one choice. Does he come with baggage? Of course he does. Now, the NCAA, in their report, which was issuing the sanctions on Ole Miss, which regardless of whether his name was, I mean, his name in the institutional control type stuff, which was the high level one stuff that got them booted from bowl games for the upcoming 2 years. Excuse me for a moment. He was not mentioned in that part. That was a booster or three or whatever. They were doing all kind of shady stuff. Google it. This was cheap. Look, when Laquan Treadwell, the number one receiver in America from Chicago, I don't care if he was just a top 50 receiver from Chicago. A top one, the number one receiver of the nation from Chicago is wanting to go to Ole Miss. Give me a break. That's when everybody knew they were cheating. Um, and hey, whatever. I throw no stones. All these schools are cheating. The whole system is messed up. Anyhow, moving on. So the other odds, we've got, let's see here. We've got, oh goodness. Oh, yeah, Napier, is plus 550, but he was plus 300 earlier today along with Cristobal, and then Cristobal moved up. Freeze's odds moved back or higher. So let's talk, Freeze, like I was getting into. Okay, then there was the fact he was using a school-issued phone for over the course of 5 years to call hookers on pretty much every recruiting trip. There's also that. There is that. And no offense, and don't. I'm kind of kidding here. Don't get flood my inbox or get all over me on Twitter. But I mean, come on. Auburn likes to win. I mean, or it's like Auburn. In fact, an Auburn buddy of mine texted me yesterday. He's like, "I want Sark or Freeze. I'm not really that into morals." So yeah, I'm not saying it. I'm quoting an Auburn fan. He's like, "I'm not that into morals." Hey, look, the SEC, they like victories, and with the way Saban has had that machine rolling, yeah, Auburn starving for victories. Auburn used to wanted to get in bed with Petrino many moons ago. Um, and so yeah, that all happened 4.5 years ago with Freeze. Okay, that's history. Why are we talking about old stuff? Yes, so we're talking about Freeze. We're also talking about multiple things. One and most important, he has beaten Nick Saban. Right now, active coaches with Gus out, the only active coach in the SEC who's beaten Nick Saban, Ogeron. And what is he like? 1-5 against him? Or maybe a couple of L's in the LSU Ole Miss when Ogeron was at at Ole Miss. So I mean, he's probably like 1-8 against that. Who knows? But he got one win, and I give credit to Joe Burrow and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Joe Brady more so than Coach O. So, but if Auburn or Tennessee hires Hugh Freeze, they'll be right back at two coaches in the SEC that have beaten Saban. Not only is he beating him on the field, and he lost that 48-43 game where Alabama got real fortunate. That Jonathan Allen like fumble return. Ole Miss should have won that game. They had all kind of craziness. Well, I shouldn't say that. They also kind of rallied late with a couple touchdowns. But that there was one more game that he could have beaten Saban. In fact, I think they were out to 14-0 lead in that game. I think Alabama got a punt return for a touchdown that kind of shifted things. And then I remember Jonathan Allen had that long scoop and score. That big man was rumbling for like 60 or 70 yards. And by the way, he and that Washington D line are balling out, Chase Young. But we're not talking NFL right now. And my gosh, I've already been yapping for 17 minutes. I could talk about SEC coaching searches for 3 hours. But anyhow, Napier, yeah, I think he's like, and by the way, what the hell was he doing taking that safety the other week? Get the heck out of here. Yeah, and look, I like Napier. He's obviously doing a great job with the Louisiana program. But I watched that Georgia State game earlier in the year too. He he got a little ways to go on the clock management program. But he can run a program, recruit, motivate, all that. But is he ready for the Auburn job? If I'm Auburn, I don't want him. No, no, no. I would much rather have Cristobal. If I'm Auburn, I want Hugh Freeze. That's who I want. Oh yeah, and back to Freeze. So he's beaten Saban. He's out recruited Saban in some instances. I'm sure Saban wanted Laquan Treadwell. I'm sure he wanted the Kimdichie brothers. There's AJ Brown, uh, Metcalf. I mean Metcalf, the stud of all studs. Is Kimdichie out of the league now? Well, you knew when he was jumping out of windows. He had some issues. Um, okay, so yeah, Freeze can win. I mean, he was the first person to win. I mean, Cutcliffe had some good seasons with Eli, but in all honesty, no, look, if they Ole Miss missed a chip shot field goal in like what year was that? Like 04-ish, 05 maybe. That would have tied the game with LSU, and if they would have won that game, they would have won the West. But they ended up losing that game. And that Ole Miss kicker was like the best kicker in the country that year, and he missed like a 30-yarder to force OT in the like last. It might have been the last play of the game. Definitely in the last minute, but other than those couple of Eli years that were pretty good. I mean, don't get me wrong, they had their 7-win seasons and going to bowl games, but Ole Miss was never, ever. I mean, not since obviously they were back in the day, Archie Manning, and like that year the Billy Cannon game against LSU. I mean, we're going way. We're going back longer than I've been around, so it's been a while. But Ole Miss has never been a national factor. Hugh Freeze made them a factor fast. And it wasn't all cheating. he can coach, man. He can coach some offense. He was out of the game 2 years, 2 years at Liberty. Now he's got Liberty 9-1. They won at Virginia Tech, and I know Tech's down. And wow, that might be another job opening. Does Vatek play this week? I know they. I don't know if they have a makeup game scheduled this week. I know Fuente is not. That could be another job opening. I don't. Maybe. But anyhow, they won at Virginia Tech. They were going to play Coastal, but it got scrapped because of COVID. And they their only loss was to NC State by 15-14. And NC State had the the most quiet quality season that I can remember in a long time. I mean, they had a good year. They went 8-3. They finished the year on a 4-game winning streak. And so there's no shame in losing by 1 at NC State. And Liberty's 9-1, and he turned Malik Willis into, I mean, statistically, easily a top 10 quarterback in the country this year, right? I'm not looking at his stats, and Malik Willis, couldn't really get on the field at Auburn, and so point being, Freeze can coach. If I'm Auburn, that's who I want. That is who I want in the conversation. That's it. Now, if that is their guy, and the reporting and the odds adjustments today don't necessarily seem to indicate that, but who knows, dude, that could be total PR. That could be total PR. They could be he could be their number one choice, and they could be trying to make it appear as if he's their fourth or fifth choice, and because nothing's happening in the next 72 hours. And there was a report yesterday. Who was it? Gosh, I can't remember. That South Carolina vetted him, and I don't, I don't know if South Carolina ever talked to him or not, but and it, God, where did I read this yesterday? I can't remember, but it was whoever wrote it was reporting that Sankey, the SEC commissioner, who basically told Saban, no, you're not hiring Freeze as your offensive coordinator after all this nonsense at Ole Miss. But that was 4.5 years ago. So, the report said that it is believed that Sankey will not try to stop an Auburn or a Tennessee from trying to hire Freeze. So, look, I mean, Auburn's got a 1 week head start. If Freeze is their guy, I'm not saying he definitely is. I'm just saying if I'm Auburn, he would be. And but Tennessee, you only got a 7-day head start on them. We could witness a bidding war between Tennessee and Auburn for Hugh Freeze. And if so, I'm here for it. All of it. Can't wait. And look, regardless, y'all have got to check out my buddy Tony Basilio's show. Tony B I think it's at Tony Basilio, Basilio on Twitter. And during the Tennessee coaching search, you have got to be tuned in. All you got to do is just go to his Twitter account and just hit play. It's right there for you. And it is A plus comedy. A plus comedy. During that last coaching search, which was, in my mind, the greatest coaching search ever in terms of pure entertainment for non-Tennessee fans. I mean, I would listen to it. I would just have it on all day. It's just fans calling and pissing and moaning and bitching. And look, Tennessee fans have great. There's no excuse for Tennessee to not be a perennial top 20 team, and they've pretty much been absolute garbage since '07. And that the last time they went to the SEC championship game, '07, I think. Yeah, I'm almost positive on that. Anyhow, so Tennessee's gonna get in this fray as well. And we'll now here I'll give you two dark horses. I cannot believe I've been yapping for 24 minutes. All right, so I'll give you two dark horses. Sark, and that gets you back to the morals program. Not my words, an Auburn fan's words. Sark, Sark. I mean, players, assistants were smelling alcohol on his breath at practice, in meetings. There was even reported that at one game, he smelled like booze. So he's obviously been sober for several years now. I mean, he was the Falcons OC. He's been Bama's OC. How many years now? Two, and the third year ago, if you will, he took over for Lane Train for the finals of the CFP. And they lost that game to Clemson, but it wasn't because of the offense. It's because Deshaun Watson was just the nastiest guy around on that night. And I know he got hurt yesterday. I don't know. I hope it wasn't serious. I haven't seen anything on it today. But anyhow, so Sark. By the way, and look, I'm not saying I don't bet on coaching searches, but if you're looking for a guy that's got longer odds, I would think that is the value play. Look, ain't no play value unless it wins, but the one with long odds that I think has a decent chance, I would say Sark at 12-1. Um, and then I'll give you one more. I don't think it's going to happen. And by the way, I wrote an article on majorwager.com about this, and Blake Von Hagen wrote about the odds. You can check those stories out on the homepage of majorwager.com. The other one I'll give you, and I was thinking this, the day of this. I texted a couple of Ole Miss friends the day South Carolina beat Auburn 30-22. I believe it was October 17th, if I'm not mistaken. I texted a couple of Ole Miss buddies, and I was like, oh man, y'all are playing fun football, but here comes Auburn for Lane Train. Here comes Auburn for Lane Train. Now, has Lane matured? Yes, clearly. He's matured, and do I think he would do Ole Miss dirty? I mean, remember, after he lost the USC job, on the tarmac at LA International, I mean, I would bet online. I don't know if they had any odds on that day or that night or that morning, that 3 a.m. morning, coming back from Glendale or Tempe, if they lost against ASU. If they had odds if Lane Kiffin would ever be a coach at a Power 5 school ever again, those odds would not have been very good. But he rehabilitated himself with getting back to the moral thing, Lane's really done nothing morally wrong unless you're a Tennessee fan. I mean, he's never, been arrested or drunk at practice or anything. He's just a smart ass and all that, which is all good fun. I'm a smart ass too. I mean, who cares? But I think he would do Ole Miss dirty? I mean, because Ole Miss, I mean, he was doing so well at FAU, he was going to get an SEC job at some point. But Ole Miss was the first one to do it, and you don't do people dirty like that. In other words, if he gives them 3 good years, and he's giving them a hell of a year this season. And by the way, if they're full force this week, I don't have no idea because their COVID numbers have been wild. If they're full force, they're going to beat LSU Saturday in Red Stick. I don't know if they're going to be full force. So, and another reason to stay at Ole Miss for Kiffin, and I'm not saying Auburn's coming calling for him. I'm not. In fact, I don't think Kiffin is probably. I don't think he's in their top 3. He's probably he's definitely in their top 10. And look, Auburn has taken 99. They went and stole Tubbs. Tubbs said he wasn't leaving Oxford unless it was in a pine box. And like 3 days later, he was, see you. Smell you later. So Auburn has taken Ole Miss's coach before. And Lane has done a 1-year turn and burn before in Knoxville. But I don't think he would do Ole Miss dirty. But if Auburn strikes out on their first few candidates, if I'm Auburn, do you go find out if he'll do them dirty? You damn right you do. Because Lane's a good coach. Whether you hate him or not, what he's done at Ole Miss this year has been phenomenal. I mean, these aren't his players. These aren't his recruits. And you know what? Little hat tip to Matt Luke. Despite those NCAA sanctions, which were Freeze's fault for the most part, and a booster or 3 or 8, Matt Luke recruited pretty good. He recruited pretty good. He left some players for Lane. And I would think Elijah Moore's going to go pro. But if he's staying and Corral's staying, Kiffin can't leave. Now, would he be a potential candidate at Tennessee too? Maybe. Shoot, when they were in all those dire straits last year, when they were in all those dire straits, not last year, you know what I mean, when they hired Pruitt. I mean, I was listening to Tony B show and people were bringing it up, and Tony B was like, "You know what? It's been a long time since he dissed us. I'm not against it." And you never know. It's a silly season in the SEC, folks. You don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen. All right, just real quick. Lovey's out at Illinois. Belima and is it Leopold at Buffalo? That's the no. I'm sorry. It's oh yeah, the Kent State coach Sean Lewis, who Ross Dellinger wrote an article about him the other week. SI's Ross Dellinger. If you don't follow him on Twitter, you should. And if you want to learn about Sean Lewis, and by the way, I didn't even read the article, but I favorited it so I could go read it when I had time, and I haven't had time. It's a busy season, and I'm trying to stay on top of college hoops as well. And I'm not even gonna bring up Keontae Johnson. I just hope my man gets better. Behind Lewis, who's the plus 350 chalk at Bet Online to be the Illinois coach, um, is Belima at plus 400, and or I'm sorry, it's wait 6-1 or 4. I feel like it was 4-1. I'm reading off Blake's article that says 6-1, along with Belima, um, who I still think can coach, and I think Belima would be a good hire if you're Illinois. Although this kid Sean Lewis, he's just turned Kent State around. He coaches a really fun offense. If you watched any action this year, so and Zona Somlin is gone, and Joe Salavea, I hope I pronounced it right, is the favorite at plus 400. Um, he is, I believe, Cristobal's co-DC, but he's got a history at Zona. I don't know if he played there or what it was. But anyhow, and Leopold at Buffalo is he's 9-1 for the Zona job, 6-1 for look, I think Vanderbilt's main target is the Notre Dame DC, but I think they want to talk to Leopold as well. And if they strike out there, he could be in the mix. Leopold could be in the mix for all three of these jobs. Not Auburn, obviously. Illinois, Arizona, and or Vandy. I'm Brian Edwards of MajorWager.com. Good gracious, I ranted for more than 30 minutes. I hope it was decent. I'm out.